Good morning, Broncos country. It is Legends of Mile High, and today we are going to be discussing Jerry Jeudy and what the Broncos can do in the wake of his injury. So, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining this morning. Really appreciate it. I know it's bright and early. I hope you have your coffee and are ready to go. But yeah, Jerry Jeudy was injured yesterday, hamstring injury. And the team is saying that he's going to be out several weeks. Now, we don't know exactly what that means, right? Several weeks, but it's more than a few, right? And it's probably not a couple months. So, if I were to take a guess, an educated guess, I would say it's between 4 and 6 weeks from the day of his injury. Now, that, at best would probably put him in the lineup on the third week of the season. And if not, it's probably the fifth or sixth week of the season. Now, that's not great, but it's not as bad as it could be, of course. I mean, he could have been lost for the season, which would have been very detrimental. So the Broncos only really have to make a decision for a few weeks of the season. And we're going to talk about what those options are. And we're going to grab some comments and see if there's some really good options from you folks out there listening in today. I'm going to say good morning to David Youngkin, was in here early this morning. Thank you so much for being here, David. Really appreciate you jumping in this morning and having this comment right away. So David says these other wide receivers will have to step up. What if we put Dulcich at wide receiver and move Manhurts second in the depth chart? Good idea or bad idea? Well, all these ideas are probably pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of things that the Broncos can do it, and having a two tight end set instead of rolling out three or four wide receivers is an option for sure. And I don't know about moving Dulcich to wide receiver, but having him play in the slot or having him move around, split out wide, things like that are an option. I mean, he's a great receiver. I think he's still got to work on his blocking a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's a good idea, really, if they don't want to go trade capital or they don't want to sign another wide receiver who still has to, get acclimated to the team and whatnot. But we'll talk about that. But yeah, it's a great idea. Dom's coming in this morning. Good morning, Dom. Saying good morning, Thomas, Scott, and Broncos country, Denver Broncos for life. Yeah, it's just me this morning. I'm actually going to be on my own for a while, unfortunately. I don't know if Scott's going to be here in the near future for a while. He's got some other engagements. So I'm trying to run the show this morning, but good morning to you, Dom. And if it takes me a little while to figure out who's in, coming in from Facebook and, whatnot, or if I miss any comments, I really will. I do apologize in advance, but thanks for being here, Dom. I appreciate it. And we got Quentin Caldwell coming in as well, saying good morning. Good morning to you too, Quentin. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you taking your time to watch Legends of Mile High. And Legends of Mile High is a fun show for me. It was my first podcast. I do a couple others. I do one with Luke Patterson, Mile High Insiders on Wednesday. And then I do Orange and Blue View on Saturday, which is fun with Ron White. But I'll tell you, this is my first show, my first podcast I have ever done, and it's been fun. I know it's an odd time for people to join in. It's Friday morning, bright and early, but we talk about history a lot of times on here, and I'm going to bring back the Mile High legend again coming up. I know it's been a while, but had a few things, guests coming on and whatnot, so it was a little bit harder, but definitely going to bring that back. So stay tuned. And if you want to see the old ones, I've been posting those on Twitter and on TikTok. So you can follow me there if you want to see those. And it's just those short versions of only the Mile High Legends. So if you're interested in that history, check those out. We've got Patrick Addington coming in. Good morning, Patrick. Patrick's saying they're going to have to start including Dulcich a lot more. He's a good receiver. They will just have to scheme him open. Yeah, we just talked about that. David Youngkin brought that up first thing this morning. So great minds think alike. So thank you very much. That is an option, right? So let's talk about the in-house options first, right? There are several in-house options that the Broncos can utilize. And, first and foremost, using the tight ends more. That's definitely something that that they can use. And that might actually lead them. I thought Albert O was kind of on the roster bubble and wasn't going to make it, but he has been playing lights out as of late. So maybe they keep him around. They keep an extra tight end that I didn't expect them to keep, and they use more tight ends, right? Alberto, Dulcich, they could be utilized in the passing game quite well. It's going to be hard to replace Jeudy's ability on the field, though. He is a dynamic player. He's very good at getting open, very good route runner, and actually, he's really good when he gets the ball in his hands. If you look at, I wrote up an analytics article. It's been a while back now, but it's still on milehighhuddle.com. Jerry Jeudy is one of those players who does a lot per target. Right? He's, his average yards per target are some of the one of the higher ones in the NFL. So very it's going to be very hard for them to replace him. So tight end is one option for sure, but that means they're going to probably have to keep another tight end that they may not have kept before. Because the only option, so there's two options that they can handle Jerry Jeudy, right? Obviously, he's going to be back playing. So one, they could just put him on the 53-man roster, have him as an inactive until he's healthy again, or they could put him on IR after he makes the 53-man roster, which means he will have to sit out for 4 weeks. So I guess the real question is will he be back before the fourth game of the season or after? And that's going to make that determination. But either way, they're going to have to cut somebody that they weren't going to cut if they want to bring that extra player on to kind of fill his role. Now, last year, they asked a couple veterans that were vested to take a cut, get cut and then re-signed. They could try and do that with somebody. It's kind of a procedural move, but it also feels wrong, right? To do that, to say, okay, we want you on the team, but we're going to cut you and then bring you back. It's a procedural move, so it's not terrible, but it does kind of feel weird. So they can do that, and they can bring an extra tight end or extra wide receiver on and still keep those players that they really wanted. So they put Jerry Jeudy on IR. I'm going to grab Gary Palmer this morning coming in. Thank you for being here, Gary, coming with a super chat. Really appreciate that. Thank you for the support, of course, Gary, and thanks for being a longtime listener of this show and all of the Mile High Huddle shows. So appreciate it. He's saying, good morning, Thomas. After Mims, who's the next man up? Go Broncos. Yeah, that's a good question, Gary, because we are talking about those options, tight end being one of them. We kind of addressed that. But there are some in-house options, right? So from my mind, I thought it was going to, making that final 53-man roster, I thought it was going to be Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Johnson, who's been out with the injury, but he's been playing excellent. He stepped into Tim Patrick's third wide receiver spot after he went down. And then you got Marvin Mims, who's going to make the team. And then there was a few question marks, right? But I think it was going to be Lil Jordan Humphrey and Marquez Callaway, two people who have experience in Sean Payton's system. So that to me was the original group that was going to make it. Now, I mean, obviously we don't know that for sure, but that's who I thought it was going to be. And I thought there were going to be a few people on the outside looking in. Kendall Hinton, Taylor Grimes, who's had an excellent camp. And I think they're trying to sneak him onto the practice squad, not giving him many preseason opportunities. And then there's Montreal Washington, who's had a very good camp as well. He has played very well at wide receiver, and he's been pretty solid in kickoff return as well. So that's the other option. Now, again, if they want to bring that seventh wide receiver on, they're going to have to cut somewhere else, which kind of stinks. But this, if they want to go with someone with experience, that may be the path that Kendall Hinton gets onto this roster, right? But he has not played very well in camp from what I saw, and he's kind of had a rough go in preseason also. So I didn't think he was going to make the roster, and he still might not. But if they wanted that other more experienced guy who comes up in big games, right? I mean, or comes up during the games. Last year, he came up big in many spots. So I don't want to make it sound like I don't like Kendall Hinton. I think it's a great story and fun, but he may very well get onto the roster. Personally, I think if they try to sneak Taylor Grimes on to the practice squad, someone's gonna pick him up on waivers. I mean, people know that he's had a great camp and a good route runner and catches everything thrown his way. So I think I don't know. It's going to be a tough one for me to see him not go, but I think it's actually based on what I've seen, but it's going to be between Hinton and Washington to make that final spot. But I would hate to see them have to cut somewhere else. So hopefully they can convince that veteran guy to take that cut and then re-sign, so they can get that extra person onto the roster and then put Jeudy on injured reserve. Because when you hear several, it seems like that's going to be, fourth or fifth week in the season before he's ready to go. Sam's coming in saying good morning. So good morning to you, Sam. Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate you joining us this morning. And we've got Patrick Addington coming in saying hopefully Mims can step up big, but I'm not expecting a ton from him being a rookie. Now that's true. Being a rookie, it's hard to expect, and he's been injured. It's hard to expect a lot from him. However, on Mile High Insiders, Cecil Lammy, who is very well connected, knows football, he came on the show and said Mims was the best wide receiver out there from his eyes, and that's a huge compliment. Now, Mims has got, going to have some growing pains, obviously, as a rookie and missing a lot of time due to that injury. But there is a huge expectation that Mims is going to be a really good player there in Denver. So having him step in and take a bigger role right away may be what he needs to really jumpstart that the career of his. So I think he can step up big, and that's why there's a few options that we're talking about in-house that doesn't, that can keep the Broncos from having to go out and trade a player or grab a free agents player. So, and Lawrence is coming in. All I want is for the Broncos to play through the rain. I'm not sure what that means, but thanks for coming in, Lawrence. I hope you mean pain, but I don't know. I hope they can make it. I hope they can figure something out until he comes back, and I hope he heals quickly. So thanks, Lawrence, for coming in. Appreciate it. And appreciate the support through Facebook Star. So thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. And then David is coming in with a similar ideas. Taylor Grimes making the 53. I was surprised from what I saw in camp and what other people saw in camp. I was surprised to see him so far down the depth chart, which immediately made me think they're not going to showcase him at all, try and get him on the practice squad, because he is a young guy that undrafted. Maybe people overlook him, and they can see him on the practice squad and keep him available for the season, because the practice squad rules have changed so much since COVID that it's almost like a little minor league team down there, right? You can keep 16 players. Several of them can actually be, vested veterans, which is still pretty good. But they could actually put 3 of these wide receivers onto the practice squad and then call them up. They can call them up the day of the game now. So I think that they can do a lot of work with the practice squad, and Grimes being on there would be a huge piece that they could use in the season as he got more experience. But I have this feeling that someone's going to snatch him up if they try to do it. And I could be wrong. Maybe other teams don't know what, people at camp saw and things like that, but he's a good player. And I think he's got a future in the NFL. If he can figure out a way to contribute on special teams early, he can get on the field. So thanks, David, for that. Appreciate it. Now, the other options that are out there, right? There's some other options that they could go. They could go try and trade for somebody. Now, they don't have a lot of draft capital to trade, so that's part of the problem. Getting rid of for a what I would call a rental, right? Someone who can come in and just take Jerry Jeudy's spot until he's back. That's seems like a bit of a stretch to want to do. If he was going to miss the entire season, then by all means, they need to go out and get somebody. But if he's going to miss only 3 games of the season, giving up draft capital for somebody that to me is a bit of a waste. But there are some people out there, right? I mean, people are out there talking about Traquan Smith, New Orleans, go try and get him. I've seen rumors about Hunter Renfrow being disgruntled and he wants to be traded. I doubt they trade Hunter Renfrow to a AFC West rival. There's a few others that names have come up in trade rumors. Devin Duvernay from the Ravens. It has been, kind of rumored that he's on the outside looking in with the moves they've made. So trade him away. Van Jefferson, Cedric Wilson. There's a few names that are out there, but none of it inspires a lot of confidence in the production they will get for trading this late in the season, right? Because some of these players don't have any idea about Sean Payton's system, and they'd have to step in, learn it. Will they learn it in time to be a major contributor before Jeudy comes back? That to me is, I don't know. That it just seems like that's something that's like the last thing they should do in my mind is go out and try and trade for somebody because they do have in-house options. Now, the free agent market to me is even worse, right? It's a bunch of like kind of guys that have been out there. They're older, haven't been signed. I mean, don't get me wrong. Julio Jones, probably a Hall of Famer, but he's at the end of his career. Kenny Galladay is out there. Jarvis Landry is intriguing to me a little bit, but still at the same time, I don't know. I mean, they may sign somebody, but depending on the price and whatnot, Sammy Watkins, even T.Y. Hilton's still out there. But I mean, none of those people really make me think that they're going to replace Jerry Jeudy, because Jerry Jeudy was going to be a major factor in this offense. So it's interesting options out there, and I don't like many of them. Kevin is coming in saying Jarvis Landry. Yeah, I mean, that's the only intriguing one to me out of all of the kind of top names that are out there right now for them to sign. And it might be somebody that they think about. It's going to be interesting because they need to make a move soon, right? Or maybe they'll wait until after their roster is set and then go get one. That's a possibility, right? Put Jerry Jeudy on the roster, and then as soon as they can, put him on IR, and then go out and try and sign a Jarvis Landry. And that is an option because there's still, like I said, people sitting out there waiting to be signed, and they can do it later in the season. But then again, right, that they've got to get up to speed, and will they be up to speed in time for Jerry Jeudy to return? That's the big question mark. So I think out of all of them, Kevin Jarvis Landry is the most appealing option to me. I don't know. But those are your options, really, are the Broncos' options. I mean, that there's really not much else they could do. And I really think that they should consider just going with the in-house option and seeing what that player can do, who's already already been practicing, knows the game plans, knows what to do. Just give it a shot and see what happens. And then if that doesn't work out, then maybe go sign one of these veterans that are still sitting out there because they've been waiting. And T.Y. Hilton waited till I think 5 games to go left in the season before he was signed with the Cowboys last year. So they do wait for a while. I'm going to grab Sam's question here. How are O-line going to be this year? How's the O-line going to be this year? Sam, that's a great question because they have, I would say they've struggled, right? For the most part in camp and into preseason, although this last preseason game, they look like they were starting to come together. Now, I'm a little worried about Garrett Bowles. He's struggling. If you want to understand why he's struggling, go check out last week's Legends of Mile High. Ken Lanier, ex-Bronco, great, 14 years in the NFL. He talked a little bit about coming back from injuries, specifically about Garrett Bowles' injury and specifically about Mike McGlinchey's injury. So he's a wealth of knowledge, insightful. I mean, a professional player who played tackle, knows what he's talking about. Go check it out. But his Garrett Bowles injury could be, a mental thing. He's trying to work his way back. But what I will say about the offensive line is we haven't seen them fully together yet, especially in preseason. Mike McGlinchey was out for quite a few days, personal reasons to start camp. Garrett Bowles was in and out of the lineup as a veteran, coming back from injury and all of that. So there's been very little time for them to gel. And now that they've kind of been together, some of these linemen have been together, they're starting to look like they're doing a much better job. So I'm a little bit worried about the offensive line, but I want to see how they do going forward. Right. I know Ben Powers struggled in that first preseason game, but he looked very good in the next one. So things are starting to trend up. So I'm not going to say that it's a terrible offensive line yet. I think they can be a good offensive line, but it's going to require them to be together for a while and to get past those injuries mentally. Garrett Bowles needs to get past that injury. It was a devastating injury, and try and get back to his 2019 version of him, or when he got second team All Pro. So it is worrisome, though, Sam. I agree with you. It is very worrisome to me, seeing what they did and seeing how I've seen in camp how the edge rushers have kind of abused the offensive tackles. Now, my guy, Alex Pelcheski, is being talked about like crazy. He's not their answer by any means as a starter, but I think he can grow into a starting role at right tackle. He's looked great. I liked him from the get-go. I was talking about him back in May, and he has shown to be a very, very solid right tackle as a rookie. He's going to keep getting more playing time. The coaches are starting to talk about him more. He's making the team. I think he's going to bump Isaiah Prince off the roster, and he may get some playing time due to some injury, but I think Cam Fleming's still going to be that swing tackle. All right, let's jump back to wide receivers, because this is another option. Randy Peel is suggesting KJ Hamler, since he knows the system. Yeah, KJ Hamler kind of knows the system, right? He was mostly not really practicing at all, and then he hasn't been with the team because they cut him due to his heart condition. But that's an option, because they talked about bringing him back into the fold after he's gotten past whatever, the heart condition and things like that, and is cleared to play again. When that is, I don't know, but it's a great option. So it's a great thought. Go grab KJ Hamler, bring him back on. I would do it after the final roster set, and then if he's ready, go grab him and bring him in and have him play on the team, because he does have some familiarity, because he was there. He just hasn't practiced a lot with the team. So it is another option, but it all depends on when Hamler is healed up and ready to go. And when that is, no, I don't know. I don't know when that is, but they want to bring him back when he is. So he might be back on the team regardless of what Jerry Jeudy, what happens with Jerry Jeudy. And David Youngkin's still giving love to my guy Taylor Grimes. I'd put Grimes over Hinton. Well, Grimes has outplayed Hinton in camp for sure. I think he's outplayed Callaway and even maybe a little Jordan Humphrey a little bit. The only problem with Grimes is they've tried him at some spots. He hasn't looked comfortable in special teams. And as that sixth wide receiver, you've got to be out there playing special teams. And that's not his thing. I mean, he's a smaller guy. Maybe he has the mentality to go run down and make a tackle on kickoff. I don't know. I haven't seen it. And there's other options for kickoff, better options for kickoff return and punt return. Mims, and then Washington, and even Jaleel McLaughlin looked like he had a great special teams night the other day. So I'm with you. I have not been impressed with Kendall Hinton this year, but it's hard to deny what he did last year when he came in and had those had some big catches for the team. So it's kind of one of those things where, do you judge him on a couple weeks of practice this year, or do you look back and see what he'd done in the past? So I just think they have more options. And I think that Sean Payton's more comfortable with the people who have been, a little more experienced, like Humphrey and Callaway. I think he really enjoys having that level of comfort. And I think that's going to give them the edge when it comes to cut down day. All right. Got a question comment here. Fallen Angels TS. We need Peters. I'm thinking you're talking about the offensive tackle. He's out there available for sure. I don't know if he's got a lot left in the tank. That's the only thing. He's not going to be. I mean, for a depth piece, sure. If he can play, but I don't think his at this stage in his career, I don't know if he's really able to push starters. And then like I said, the problem is they've got to gel with the team. There's not many offensive tackle options out there. You could go trade for somebody. I guess I would wait and see, right? And I know that sounds kind of like a cop out, right? Wait and see how good this offensive line comes together with everybody in full health. See if Garrett Bowles can continue to get more to improve from that performance that we've seen early on, because he has. But if you see that it's not working out, you can try and make a trade during the season. I mean, because right now, bringing somebody in or trading, during the season, still that's you're bringing somebody in that's not familiar with the system and not familiar with the other offensive linemen. So it's going to take some time to work it out. So I'd rather see them, wait and see what happens. And I know that the starters will probably play a little bit in this upcoming preseason game, probably very, very little, but hopefully the offensive line, the starters, hopefully McGlinchey can actually play along that line with everybody else, and we'll see how well they do when it's all fully put together. So let's see before we panic. Let's see what they can put out on the field this preseason game. The line was projected to be a pretty good line with all the moves they've made, and then Ben Powers didn't look very good. Bowles didn't look very good, and everybody kind of was like, "Oh man, what's going on?" But Powers looked a lot better. I think it was just kind of a hiccup in his game. But I'm really liking Cushenberry. He's been one of the more solid players on that line when everybody, including me, was really worried about the center of that line, and he's stepped up. So let's see how they step up and go from there. All right. Randy Peel's coming in with a suggestion of Denzel Mims. Yeah, Denzel Mims is an intriguing name, but I think he got cut due to injury. I don't know if he might be fully healthy. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't know if he's a real option. It's intriguing, and I thought about that, but is he better than Marvin Mims or Brandon Johnson right now? I don't know. I think that they'll be okay having Sutton, Johnson, and Mims in those three wide receiver sets. And I really think that Sean Payton values the experience that Callaway and Humphreys brings. Even though they're not incredibly dynamic, you're going to see them early on the field playing, not just special teams, but as a wide receiver. Because if you think back, Callaway's had a rough camp, but I mean, he was the Saints' leading receiver in 2021. Which isn't huge. I mean, don't get me wrong. He didn't have a ton of catches, and it was out of necessity more than anything Callaway did. But that's valuable experience in NFL games. So let's see these in-house options. I think they'll probably play a few snaps in preseason, and we'll see how they do. But the big question really is how long until Jerry Jeudy is back, and that's going to determine a lot. And they're not saying. They're saying several weeks. I think if it was more than 6, they'd probably say a couple months. And so he's going to be back probably in the 4th to 5th game of the season. So I hope they don't have to trade draft capital in order to make some sort of move. I just not for 4 weeks, right? Not for 4 weeks of play. All right, let me just grab a couple more comments here if we have any, and then we got Doug coming in saying Mims will fill in just fine. No worries, people. Go Broncos. Doug, thank you for that. Let's take a sigh of deep breath and let's count on Mims, right? Count on Mims, the rookie, to come in and play and have some production early on in his career. So I'm with you. I think Marvin Mims is a good player, and hopefully he can contribute in Jerry Jeudy's absence. So thank you very much for that. All right, folks. I really appreciate you guys joining in here today. Really, kind of comments are winding down. And so next week, don't forget Legends of Mile High. Hopefully, going to bring back the Mile High Legend, tell a little story about Broncos history next week, do a little research and see if I can bring you a good one. So thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody. And go Broncos.